The triple threat principle, when applied to Ultimate, changes everything that you think you know about the game. So I've been playing Frisbee for 60 years, and I can't stand Ultimate. All the prevailing concepts on how to play the game make the game way harder than it needs to be. If you completely overhauled the rules, players overnight would become much better. Just about everything in the sport can be advanced and be improved. There's nobody on the planet who wants more than I do to bring reform to the game. So I want to make some videos. I want to share my knowledge of the game. I'd like to explain to people what the triple threat is, how it works, how it changes the game. I'd like to talk extensively about dribbling and what dribbling is, what penetration is, what kind of defenses work against the motion offense. All I want to do is see the game grow and see it improve. The one thing that binds us all together is a Frisbee. So let's see how this goes. Hello, Ultimate Frisbee World. For those who don't know who I am, my name's Frank Huguenard, Huguenot, as they say in France. And I'd like to make a series of videos about Ultimate Frisbee. For those of you who are not aware, I've been playing Ultimate for about 40 years. I started playing Frisbee in the 60s, so I've been playing Frisbee for 60 years. And I can't stand Ultimate. Certainly there's a lot of it that's fun. I mean, the game was designed to be fun. But basically top to bottom, I really don't like the game at all. I've pioneered, mastered a style, a philosophy of the game that's heavily dependent on something that I call dribbling. Dribbling is a term that's used in sports. It's in basketball, soccer, lacrosse, in the form of cradling. It's in hockey, field hockey, etc. And it just means moving around the field with the game object. The Ultimate's unique in the sense that to be able to move around the field with the disc, you need the cooperation and collaboration of your teammates. And so I've developed an entire paradigm around dribbling that literally changes how the game is philosophically constructed. It literally changes everything about how offense, defense works. And in doing so, it really obsoletes a lot of the known conventions. It makes the rules pretty ridiculous. The rules are in multiple ways. The self-officiating is harebrained, flat out. It's the dumbest thing in sports. And the rules themselves do not lend themselves to excellence. You know, the rules are built for the lowest common denominator. The rules were meant to be fun. And you can't design a sport or a game with the intention of that game being fun. Being fun should be a byproduct of a well-constructed game, but fun is a subjective experience. So what's fun for me is most likely not fun for you. So how do you design a game to be fun? That doesn't make any sense. That the object of the game is a subjective experience, so who wins? The person who has the most fun? How do you even measure that? So I'm an enormous proponent for a complete overhaul of the rules. For example, I never need more than 3 steps to come to a stop. And I'm sure all the haters are going to be out there making some wise ass comments about me being slow and old or whatever. So it's not inherently fair or smart to have a sport where stopping as quickly as possible or as in few steps as possible is fair on someone who always only needs 3. It's ludicrous. You need to have a sport where there's a hard cap on the number of steps. 3 steps. That's all that are needed. How else are you going to determine who a good player is or not when anybody can take any number of random steps to stop, and that's just one rule. Why is the pick rule illegal? That needs to be abolished. The picks are illegal initially because they were playing on pavement blacktop surfaces, and they thought it may not be a good idea to have picks, so they did it out of safety concerns. I mean, the pick is um, at best a well-intended idea to prevent injuries. In my offense, I defy anybody to come up and develop a pick rule that makes sense in how I move around the field with the disc. I mean, you could maybe make kind of moving picks like in basketball illegal or something like that. Uh, but the way the pick rule right now is written is just insanity. It's, I mean, it doesn't. You can't have a sport like that. Double teams. AUDL has proven that the double team rule doesn't make sense why it's been implemented. And I can go down and down the line. That the entire set of rules is fairly harebrained. They do not lend themselves to people pushing themselves to become better players. Fundamentally, it's my position that if you completely overhauled the rules, players overnight would become much better because the rules themselves providing firm, consistent, non-arbitrary boundaries from a beginner player all the way up to Nethercutt or Kurt Gibson or any of these guys, everybody's going to improve because they're going to have a set of rules that challenges them to be their best. I mean, that's just common sense. In any event, I've got a dissenting opinion in the ultimate frisbee community, especially within the hierarchy, the governing bodies, the captains, the coaches, the AUDL teams, or the so-called elite teams, which kind of an oxymoron if you ask me. I can't stand the nomenclature, the slang, the what's hip. Certainly the way people play is dumb, flat out. The team names are dumb. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Just about everything in the sport can be advanced and be improved and become much better than it already is. And there's no reason in any part of society where a person with a dissenting voice shouldn't be allowed to have a platform and to be heard. In this instance, I think especially me. I mean, I'm someone who's dedicated my entire life to this sport or game, like I like to say. Ultimate, until it's reformed, simply is not a sport. You can't have a sport where the object is to have a subjective experience. The goal is to have fun. That's not a sport. It's a nice social activity, but I'm not too interested in social anything. So what I would like to do is, begin producing a series of videos, open this up to questions and answers. And all I want to do is help the game, move it forward, advance the ideas, reform the rules. I can't stand watching the game. I don't care what it is. It's completely unwatchable. You look at, someone like Marquise Brown's got 200,000 views on a highlight reel video, and yet the average ultimate frisbee game club or AUDL is watched 3,000 times. Frisbee golf is watched 100 times more on average than ultimate frisbee. I mean, interpret the data, people. Something's fundamentally wrong with this picture. Ultimate's fun, of course. It's highly addictive. There's way too many false positives in the sport, which is why it's so incredibly difficult to change. People have fun. They like it. Well, Frank, that's your problem. You don't like it. No, that's your problem. Everything that you think you know to be true about the sport is actually wrong. And that's not an opinion. It's a fact. The triple threat principle, when applied to ultimate, changes everything that you think you know about the game. That's just straight up the way it is. So you should care what my opinion is, or what my perspective is, or what my approach of the game is. It's important. I've been recently censored. I was censored on Twitter when I had the Being Ulti account for what was supposed to be a week. It turned out to be 2 days. I was censored on Reddit, which I want to get to on a later video. Um, and why? You know, is Ultimate Frisbee a communist philosophical social structure? Like, what's wrong with having a dissenting opinion? Um, I've done nothing wrong. I may have some salty language from time to time, um, but at the end of the day, there's nobody on the planet who wants more than I do to bring reform to the game, to see the game uh, fulfill its promise to be, one of the great sports. It's 50 years old. Nobody watches it. Nobody cares. They still think it's the game being played with a dog. That's not my fault. Oh, we'll censor Frank, then that'll solve everything. It doesn't work that way. Um, I care deeply about the sport, and at the same time, what needs to happen is for the community to interpret the data and realize, well, wait a second, maybe this idea of flimsy, open to interpretation, autonomous, everybody's sovereign to their own um, authority in terms of making the calls, this entire egalitarian concept. It's great. If that's what you want, brilliant. But having that and wanting to get this into the Olympics, or wanting this to be watched by more people other than just your parents, your girlfriends, or other Frisbee players, those two things aren't congruous with each other. There's no spectators. Nobody watches Ultimate Frisbee other than the community itself. It doesn't expand that way. And there's a tremendous opportunity right now. I mean, the organization, the UPA, also known as USAU, has done a great job of outreach, and there's a lot of kids playing Frisbee these days. So in that sense, the sport is growing, or the community's growing. The sport isn't growing at all in terms of expanding outside of its own insular infrastructure and community. In any event, so I want to make some videos. I want to share my knowledge of the game. I'd like to explain to people what the triple threat is, how it works, how it changes the game. I'd like to talk extensively about dribbling and what dribbling is and how dribbling is different from give and go, for instance, what penetration is, how penetration changes the game, what kind of defenses work against the motion offense, which is the offensive framework that I've developed that works around, that was, and by and large, inherited from Tex Winter's triangle offense in basketball. How that changes the game, how that works. I would love nothing better than people like Kirk Gibson. Who's this guy up in Seattle? I'm forgetting his name, Trent something. Dylan Freechild, learning how to dribble properly, how to be a point guard, how to break down a defense, and run motion offenses. It would be incredible. I mean, look, the one thing that binds us all together is a Frisbee. A Frisbee is the most amazing, phenomenal game device ever. And yet when I watch anything from AUDL to club or whatever, I'm not seeing anything that's interesting. Sports, unless you're going to a track meet, there's two things about a sport. There's the athleticism and the amazing plays, but there's also the chess match, the interesting part. The pick and roll in basketball, the play action pass in football. That's all, that kind of stuff is non-existent in the game. And here you've got the most advanced, sophisticated, incredible device in a Frisbee that you can do all these amazing things with, and yet the game's not interesting. It's boring. It's just sheer athleticism, which is ironic in a game that has an incredible offensive bias in it. You've got everybody, the all the prevailing concepts on how to play the game make the game way harder than it needs to be. It makes no sense at all. And you call me crazy. um, so this is what I want to do. Please leave your comments below. Haters will be eliminated. I have no time for you. I have no use for you, nor does the community. You're a big part of the problem. You all know who you are too. Um, yeah. So let's see how it goes. You know, all I want to do is see the game grow and see it improve, and share my knowledge. So let's see how this goes.